Honestly, I have been waiting for this moment for a very long time. So long, in fact, I sat in that very seat probably a year and a half ago when these two guys completely blindsided me. And I'm sorry that I'm not sorry about that. But me and Matt sat down to write this speech, and we were going to try to blindside and embarrass Dan. And we quickly realized that's impossible. Kid does not get embarrassed. So we're taking a different route. We're going to defend our brother and explain to you why he acts the way he does. You see, Dan suffers from a debilitating, life-altering, physically changing disease known as MCS. In the medical community, it's known as middle child syndrome. I bet a lot of you thought that middle child syndrome, that doesn't exist, just a rumor. Well, it's true. It does exist, and it's reaching epidemic proportions. 1 in every 3 siblings suffer. And it's completely incurable. China has made some strides. But in America, completely incurable, and Dan suffers from it every single day. And while we look to China with optimistic eyes, it is tearing families apart here in the United States. It darn near tore our family apart. You see, Dan, right around the time Michael was born, his behavior was completely erratic, bizarre, ridiculous. I mean, this kid wouldn't go into our basement for 7 years because he was convinced Native Americans lived in our basement. That's an absolutely true story. That's dead true. My dad tried to make a case of fear, locked him in the basement. Kid tried for days. Days on end. So clearly, Michael and I were very concerned about Dan's behavior. So I brought it up with my shrink, Dr. Carlton, and I called the dentist on my dad. And Dr. Carlton told me that my brother Dan suffers from MCS, and the dentist case is still pending. But that's besides the point. Dr. Carlton nailed it. Me and Matt have been compiling observations of Dan for the last umpteen years, and we've actually put them into a study that we're going to share with you tonight. It's called Stuck in the Middle. My battle with MCS. Chapter 1. Titled, From Braille to Whale, Physical Manifestations of MCS. Please enlighten this audience tonight. This disease is all about extremes. It's definitely about extremes, especially with Dan's physicality. With his weight, he's at overlay weight fluctuations. High school, the kid was a $150 soaking wet. Went to college and easily doubled that. Easy. But I could talk to you all night about this and not get the point across. So we actually brought a visual aid again. This is called the reverse Jared from Subway effect. The picture speaks for itself. This picture's not worth 1,000 words, it's worth 1,000 pounds. And in true MCS fashion, today Dan finds himself somewhere in the middle. But the physical differences don't stop there, everyone. You see, well, Michael and I, Dan, we look an awful lot alike. And let me tell you, you wear that tux pretty darn well, my brother. An awesome, oh yeah. Now, you look good tonight. I don't want to take anything away from you. But you just didn't want to look like us. You just didn't. You didn't want to be the son. You didn't want to be a hobbit. We're content with being hobbits. You see, Dan, he said, I'm going to blow the Shire. Right around the 3rd, 4th grade, we started growing facial hair, right? No, Dan started growing facial hair in 4th grade. Yes. I remember, only person in this class with a mustache. Except for his teacher, Miss Bennett. She was evil. But that brings us to our second symptom of MCS, and that is poor judgment. Yeah, and it's definitely poor judgment in school, mostly. We were going to bring Dan's GPA, but it's a little small. We couldn't find it. And while we were trying to mount that on this, you guys wouldn't just see it. So let's fast forward to middle school now. Middle school, Dan was very popular, very creative. And he said, I'm going to ride this wave of popularity, and I'm going to be the student council president. So Dan, he plastered the walls with signs saying, don't be a ditz, vote for Fitz. Well, in the end, Dan was the ditz because, well, he got elected, but Dan became the first person in Roosevelt Middle School history to ever be impeached. I have no idea, but from what I remember, it had something to do with a blue dress, a stain, Lee Rubin possibly wearing that blue dress, and a stolen rocks and minerals test. Anybody who plays it, it's completely ridiculous. So now we're going to go to probably Dan's oddest symptom with MCS, and it's pain tolerance. Dan has an extremely high pain tolerance at times. But sometimes you got an extremely low pain tolerance. Let me give you some examples. I've seen Dan break his nose, get it re-broken into place, and not make a grimace. Now, I've also heard Dan wail in pain, crying for our mother, when he had something called a sharp duty. And Matt does a great impression of Dan having sharp duty, because I've heard it for so long. It sounded like this. Mommy! Sharp duty! To which we hear my mother run up the stairs, barge into the bathroom, grab Dan's hands, and just talk him through this. Something that now Amanda's going to have to do. And you're actually perfect. She's perfect for the job. She's got those big old hands. You know what they say about big hands? Bigger the hands, the more comfort. Yeah. Which brings us to our next symptom of MCS, irrationality. Everyone in here knows Dan is completely irrational. Now, in college, Dan had this great idea. Dan loved wings in college. He ate a lot of them. You gotta go to Ratson's to get wings. So one day, Dan goes, I'm gonna get free wings for me and my roommates. So what does he do? He barters his only real valuable asset in college for free wings. What was that asset? A DVD of pornography. Look, it's completely irrational. I tell you, it's not even a fair trade. Porn is way more valuable. Easy. But what was the DVD called? Was it Armageddon On with Ben Affleck? No, he kept that. And that's the crazy part. He gave him Will He Bonk You in the Chocolate Factory. But in the end, Dan got bonked in the Chocolate Factory because not only did he not get his free wings, lost his favorite porno tape. I mean, he ended up with his hands up, but he did make a lifelong friend. Here's a silver lining. The delivery guy, Poria, who's here tonight. And spoiler alert, Dan, I saw Poria's gift in the shape of a DVD. It's coming back. But you can see that Dan... You can see that Dan has struggled with this his entire life, and he still struggles with it today. Just last month, we were at a wedding. Dan's MCS was acting up bad, and he got it in his head that it'd be hilarious if he kissed the groom's father on the lips. I swear to God, he thought that he actually tried to. Matt had to restrain him from doing it. But he didn't get the groom's father, but he did get a different kiss. He took him, he kissed him on the forehead, scrubbed him. He said, "You're a beautiful man." These are just the kind of things that Dan gets into. It really happened, it's awful. But in the end, when I look at Dan, and I realize, he does the most ridiculous things, but he's been a great brother. And tonight, fellas, please be careful because he has chapstick and he's armed and ready to kiss. Which actually brings me to a great segue to our bride now, Amanda. When it comes to Amanda, starting at kissing is a very relevant point. You see, Michael and I... Whoa, Matt, we can't talk about this. What? Fitzpatrick's don't kiss and tell. But what we can tell you all with 100% confidence is how proud we are of our brother Dan. Dan, you have come so far in life. I remember getting a phone call from Kate when you were in jail. I never thought you would get here. But you truly are someone we look up to figuratively and literally. Your most redeeming quality, truthfully, is your loyalty. It really is loyalty. And I've tested that loyalty. I've kicked you in the nuts so many times. And you still got my back. But you're the funniest person I've ever met. I really want to be like you. He's so creative. He's used his creativity to get a great job. You probably all know he works for a great man named Wendy Williams. But in all honesty, of all your accomplishments, your best accomplishment is your new bride, Amanda. Amanda, you've been in from the very beginning. Although we thought you might have had some MCS too. In the end, we just realized you guys were a perfect fit. So we are so honored to finally call you our sister. We love you guys. Let's bring our glasses behind us.